A billionaire father thought he had given his daughter everything money could buy. But when he discovered her secret meeting with a homeless girl under a bridge, his world turned upside down. What this poor girl taught his daughter will change your perspective on life forever. Stay till the end. You won't believe what happens next. In the heart of Lagos, Nigeria, where tall glass buildings touched the clouds and luxury cars filled the streets, lived a man named Joseph Adebayo. Joseph was not just rich, he was what people called stupidly wealthy. His money was so much that if you counted 1 naira note every second, you would still be counting when your great-grandchildren were old and gray. Joseph lived in a mansion so big that it had 47 rooms. Yes, 47. His daughter Sarah had her own wing of the house, complete with a movie theater, a swimming pool shaped like a butterfly, and enough toys to fill 10 orphanages. Joseph believed that if you could buy it, Sarah should have it. After all, wasn't that what good fathers did? But here's what Joseph didn't know, and what would soon shatter his understanding of fatherhood forever. Every Tuesday and Thursday, exactly at 4 p.m., Sarah would tell her driver, "Uncle Mike, please drop me at Auntie Joy's house for my piano lessons." Uncle Mike, a kind man who had worked for the family for 8 years, would nod and drive her to the music teacher's house in Victoria Island. But Sarah never went inside. Instead, she would wait until Uncle Mike drove away, then walk 15 minutes to a place that would make her father's heart stop if he knew. Under the third mainland bridge, where the city's forgotten people lived in cardboard houses and makeshift shelters, Sarah had been meeting someone for 3 whole months. Her name was Mercy. Mercy was 12 years old, just like Sarah, but her life was as different from Sarah's as night was from day. She wore the same faded yellow dress every single day, a dress with holes that she had sewn up with colorful threads, creating beautiful patterns that looked like flowers. Her shoes were too big for her feet, probably found in a dumpster, but she walked with them proudly as if they were golden slippers. Mercy had no mansion, no driver, no fancy schools. What she had was something far more precious, though neither girl understood it yet. She had wisdom that could only come from facing life's hardest lessons at the youngest age. On this particular Thursday, Sarah sat on an old tire beside Mercy, sharing her lunch, a sandwich that cost more than most families in Lagos spent on food in a week. But Mercy wasn't interested in the expensive food. She was teaching Sarah something that would change the young girl's life forever. "Sarah," Mercy said, her voice gentle but firm, "close your eyes and tell me what you hear." Sarah giggled. "This is silly, Mercy. I hear cars. I hear people shouting. I hear—" "No," Mercy interrupted softly. "Listen deeper. What do you really hear?" Sarah closed her eyes again. This time, she heard something different. She heard a baby crying in the distance, probably hungry. She heard an old man singing a beautiful Yoruba song while fixing someone's shoe. She heard children laughing as they played with a football made of plastic bags tied together. "I hear life," Sarah whispered, her eyes still closed. Mercy smiled. "Yes, you hear real life. Not the life that money builds around you like a wall, but the life that teaches you who you really are." Sarah opened her eyes, confused. "What do you mean?" "In your big house," Mercy said, "when you cry, who comes to comfort you? The nanny or the cook or—" "People who are paid to care for you," Mercy said gently. "Here, when someone cries, we comfort them because we choose to. Not because we're paid to, but because we understand pain." Sarah had never thought about this before. In her world, everything was a service that money bought. Love, care, attention, they all came with a price tag. "But Mercy," Sarah said, "wouldn't you want to live in a big house? Have nice clothes and good food every day?" Mercy looked at the city skyline, where the glass towers reflected the orange sunset. "Do you know what I learned last week, Sarah?" "What?" "I learned that the richest woman in this city, probably richer than your father, hasn't spoken to her own children in 5 years. They fight over her money every day, but none of them called to ask if she ate lunch." Sarah felt something strange in her chest, a feeling she couldn't name. "But here," Mercy continued, pointing to the small community around them, "Mr. Peter hasn't eaten in 2 days because he gave his last money to pay for little Hannah's medicine. And when Mama Janet's roof leaked last night, 12 people came with plastic sheets and tools to help fix it. No one asked for payment. As if summoned by magic, the people Mercy spoke about appeared. Mr. Peter, a thin man with kind eyes, was helping two children with their homework using an old textbook held together with tape. Mama Janet was sharing a pot of rice with anyone who was hungry. Hannah, now recovered from her illness, was braiding the hair of an elderly woman who couldn't move her arms properly. Sarah watched in amazement. In her world, people were paid to be kind. Here, kindness was as natural as breathing. Mercy, she said slowly, I think I understand something now. But before Mercy could respond, they heard a car door slam. Then another. Then the sound of expensive shoes walking quickly across the rough ground. Sarah's heart stopped. Standing 30 feet away, his face a mixture of shock, anger, and something else Sarah couldn't identify, was her father. Joseph Adebayo, the billionaire, stood in his N500 000 suit, diamond watch gleaming in the evening light, staring at his daughter sitting on a dirty tire next to a homeless girl. But the most shocking thing wasn't his presence. It was what Sarah saw in his eyes. For the first time in her 12 years of life, Sarah saw her father, the man who owned half of Lagos, looking completely and utterly lost. Joseph stood frozen. But let's go back to understand how Mercy became Sarah's most important teacher. 2 months earlier, Mercy lived in a happy home with her teacher Father James and seamstress Mother Mary in Acadia. Then tragedy struck like lightning. A drunk driver killed James. Medical bills and funeral costs destroyed them. Within weeks, Mary died from grief and sickness, leaving 12-year-old Mercy completely alone under the Third Mainland Bridge. But instead of becoming bitter, Mercy chose to become what her parents raised her to be, a teacher of life's most important lessons. That's how she met Sarah 6 weeks later. The rich girl was crying alone, lost after fighting with her father, who forgot her birthday again for business meetings. I'm Mercy, the homeless girl said, sitting beside her. I'm Sarah. Why aren't you scared of me? Everyone either wants my money or stays away. Because I see your heart, not your bank account, Mercy replied. From that day, every Tuesday and Thursday, Sarah would lie about piano lessons to receive the most valuable education of her life. Lesson 1. True wealth. Sarah, what makes your father rich? Mercy asked during their second meeting. Money, houses, businesses. Look around. Mercy pointed to the bridge community. Mr. Peter gave his last and 200 for little Hannah's medicine. He's richer than your father. How? Your father's money multiplies his possessions. Peter's kindness multiplied joy. Which one can you take to heaven? Sarah never forgot that lesson. Lesson 2. Real family. Do you eat dinner with your father? Mercy asked one Thursday. He's always working or traveling. Every evening here, we share one pot of rice. Everyone eats, everyone talks, everyone belongs. Family isn't who shares your blood, it's who shares your burdens. Lesson 3. The power of gratitude. Mercy taught Sarah to list 3 things she was grateful for each visit. Not expensive things, but simple ones. I'm grateful for this friendship, Sarah said once. Why? Because for the first time, someone likes me for me, not my daddy's money. That's the richest feeling in the world, Mercy smiled. Lesson 4. Service over self. Mercy showed Sarah how she taught younger children to read using torn books, how she mended clothes with colorful threads, how she helped elderly people walk to the water tap. But Mercy, you have nothing. Why help others? When you serve others, you discover who you really are. Your maids serve you for money. I serve because it fills my soul. Lesson 5. Courage in crisis. Sarah, what scares you most? Mercy asked one day. Disappointing my father. I lost everything. Parents, home, future. But I learned that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's choosing love when fear tells you to choose anger. These weren't classroom lessons with books and blackboards. They were life lessons taught through living, breathing examples. Sarah watched Mercy comfort crying children, share food with hungry families, and find joy in simple moments like watching the sunset reflect off the Lagos Lagoon. Mercy, Sarah said during their last secret meeting, you've taught me more in 2 months than I learned in 12 years. What did you learn? that being rich and being wealthy are completely different things. You're the wealthiest person I know. But now, as Joseph stood 30 feet away, his face showing shock and confusion, both girls realized their secret classroom was about to be exposed. Mercy stood up, her faded dress catching the evening breeze, and walked toward the billionaire with the confidence of someone who had nothing left to lose, but everything important to teach. Sir, she said respectfully, I'm Mercy. I've been Sarah's teacher. Joseph's mouth opened, but no words came, because he realized his daughter had found something his billions couldn't buy. A teacher who taught with her heart, not her head. Sir, Mercy said, walking toward Joseph with calm confidence, I'm Mercy. I've been Sarah's teacher. Joseph's expensive watch caught the evening light as his hands trembled slightly. Around them, the bridge community had quietly gathered, Mr. Peter, Mama Janet, little Hannah, and others, forming a protective circle around their beloved teacher. Teacher, Joseph's voice cracked. My daughter has the best tutors money can buy. Harvard graduates, Oxford professors. What could you possibly teach her? Mercy smiled gently. Mr. Joseph, may I ask you 3 questions? What? When did you last have a real conversation with Sarah? Not about school grades or piano lessons, but about her dreams, her fears, her heart. Joseph opened his mouth, then closed it. His mind raced through memories. Business dinners where Sarah sat silently, car rides where she stared out windows while he made phone calls, bedtime stories replaced by nannies because he had important meetings. I provide for her. I give her everything she needs. That's not what I asked, Mercy said softly. Question 2. What makes Sarah cry at night? Cry. Sarah doesn't cry. She has everything. She cries every Tuesday and Thursday before coming here. Mercy interrupted gently. She cries because she feels invisible in her own home. She cries because she thinks your love depends on her being perfect. She cries because she's lonely in a house full of people paid to care about her. Joseph felt like someone had punched him in the chest. He looked at Sarah, who was now standing, tears streaming down her face. Daddy, Sarah whispered, is that true? Do you only love me when I'm perfect? Before Joseph could answer, Mercy asked her 3rd question. Mr. Joseph, what's the difference between being Sarah's provider and being Sarah's father? The words hit him like lightning. In that moment, surrounded by people who had nothing but shared everything, Joseph realized he had been Sarah's ATM machine, not her daddy. I don't understand, he stammered. A provider gives things. A father gives himself, Mercy explained. Look around you. Mr. Peter has no money, but yesterday he spent 2 hours teaching his neighbor's son mathematics because the boy's father works night shifts. Mama Janet has no fancy kitchen, but she cooked extra rice to feed 3 families. Little Hannah has no expensive toys, but she spends her afternoons reading stories to the elderly. She gestured to the community. These people are rich in the only currency that matters, love, time, and presence. Your daughter came here hungry, not for food, but for connection, for someone to see her really see her. Joseph felt tears threatening to fall. But I work hard to give her the best life. The best life isn't the most expensive life, Mercy said firmly. Sarah told me something that broke my heart. She said, Mercy, my daddy knows everything about my grades, but nothing about my dreams. Sarah sobbed openly now. It's true, Daddy. I want to tell you about my dreams of helping poor children, but you were always busy. I wanted to share my fears about making friends, but you just bought me more toys instead. Joseph knelt down, his expensive suit touching the dusty ground. Sarah, I didn't know. I thought providing was loving. It's part of love, Mercy said gently, but not the whole love. Watch this. She turned to little Hannah. Hannah, sing the song you composed yesterday. Hannah's sweet voice filled the evening air with a beautiful Yoruba lullaby. When she finished, everyone clapped and cheered. Hannah glowed with pride. Hannah has no music teacher, no piano, no recording studio, Mercy explained. But everyone here knows her gift because we pay attention. We celebrate her not because we're paid to, but because we choose to. That's what Sarah needed from you. Not another expensive gift, but your attention. Your time. Your presence. Joseph looked at his daughter, really looked at her, for the first time in years. He saw not the perfectly dressed rich girl he thought he had created, but a lonely child desperate for her father's genuine love. Sarah, he said, his voice breaking, I'm so sorry. I've been the worst kind of poor man, poor in love while being rich in everything else. Mercy nodded approvingly. Now you're learning, Mr. Joseph. The lesson isn't over yet. Joseph knelt on the dusty ground, his N500,000 suit now stained, tears mixing with the Lagos evening dust on his cheeks. Around them, the bridge community watched in complete silence as one of Nigeria's richest men broke down before a 12-year-old homeless girl. I've been the worst father in the world, Joseph whispered. Mercy, please. Teach me how to love my daughter properly. Mercy looked at this broken billionaire with compassion. Mr. Joseph, learning requires more than just listening. Are you ready for your final test? Yes, anything. I'll do anything to fix this. Good, Mercy said, then turned to address the entire community. Everyone, please gather around. Mr. Joseph is about to make a very important choice. The bridge dwellers formed a circle. Mr. Peter with his kind eyes, Mama Janet holding baby Grace, little Hannah clutching her handmade doll, and dozens of others who had become Sarah's second family over these past months. Mercy's voice rang clear in the evening air. Mr. Joseph, you say you want to learn how to be a real father. Here's your test. Choose. She pointed in 2 directions. Option 1. Take Sarah home to your mansion. Hire the best family counselors money can buy. Send her to expensive therapy sessions to fix this problem. Buy her whatever she wants to make up for lost time. Use your wealth to solve this like you solve everything else. Joseph nodded slowly. That was exactly what he had planned to do. Option 2. Mercy continued. Leave your car, your phone, your wallet with me. Spend 1 week here, under this bridge, living like we live. Sleep on cardboard. Eat what we eat. Share what we share. Learn what Sarah has been learning. Discover what it means to be truly rich. The community gasped. Even Sarah's eyes widened in shock. 1 week. Joseph stammered. But I have board meetings, international calls, business deals worth millions. And there's your answer, Mercy said sadly. You're still choosing money over your daughter. No, wait. Joseph said desperately. I didn't mean. Sarah stepped forward, her voice barely a whisper. Daddy, I've spent 3 months learning here. 1 week won't kill you. Joseph looked at his daughter, really looked at her. In her eyes, he saw hope fighting against years of disappointment. This wasn't just about proving himself to Mercy or the community. This was about proving to Sarah that she mattered more than his bank account. What about my businesses? He asked weakly. Mr. Peter managed to teach children and comfort grieving widows while working 2 jobs, Mercy replied firmly. Mama Janet raised 4 children while running a small food business. We manage what matters most. The question is, what matters most to you? The bridge fell silent except for the distant sound of Lagos traffic. Joseph felt every eye on him, his daughter's hopeful gaze, Mercy's wise stare, the community's curious expressions. If I do this, Joseph said slowly, if I stay here for a week, what will you teach me? Mercy smiled. The same thing I taught Sarah. How to be wealthy without money. How to love without conditions. How to serve without expecting payment. How to find joy in simple moments. And most importantly, how to be present, truly present, with the people who matter. Joseph's hands shook as he reached into his pocket. He pulled out his phone, his lifeline to the business world. Then his wallet, thick with credit cards and cash. Finally, his car keys. Sarah, he said, his voice cracking, is this what you want? Your daddy learning to live like this. Sarah ran to him and hugged him tightly. Daddy, I don't care if you're rich or poor. I just want you to see me. Really see me. Joseph held his daughter for the first time in years. Not a quick goodbye hug before rushing to work, but a real, long, desperate embrace of a father who almost lost the most precious thing in his life. He handed his belongings to Mercy. Teach me, he said simply. Teach me how to be the father Sarah deserves. The community erupted in quiet applause, but Mercy raised her hand for silence. The lesson begins now, Mr. Joseph. But I must warn you, this will be the hardest week of your life. 5:30 a.m. Joseph woke up to the worst pain he'd ever experienced. His back screamed from sleeping on flattened cardboard boxes. His N500-000 suit was wrinkled beyond recognition, and his body ached in places he didn't know could hurt. "Welcome to our morning routine," Mercy said cheerfully, already awake and helping elderly Mama Grace sit up on her makeshift bed. Joseph watched in amazement. Despite sleeping on the ground like him, Mercy moved with energy and purpose while he could barely stand. "First lesson," Mercy announced. "Everyone contributes. Mr. Peter, please show Joseph how we start our day." Mr. Peter, the kind teacher who'd given his last money for Hannah's medicine, handed Joseph a plastic container. "We fetch water from the public tap. 4 containers each. Community survives when everyone works." Joseph stared at the container. At home, he pressed a button and servants brought him coffee in bed. Now he had to walk half a mile, carry heavy water containers, and share everything. "Daddy, I'll help you," Sarah said, appearing beside him with her own container. As they walked to the tap together, Joseph realized something stunning. "Sarah, when was the last time we did anything together?" "Just the two of us." Sarah thought carefully. I can't remember, Daddy." The words pierced his heart deeper than any business failure ever had. At the water tap, Joseph struggled to lift the heavy container. His soft businessman hands weren't built for this. Sarah, despite being smaller, moved efficiently. She'd learned this routine over months. "My daughter is stronger than me," Joseph thought with shame and pride mixed together. Lesson 1. True strength. Back at the bridge, Mercy gathered everyone for morning prayers. "Mr. Joseph, would you like to share what you're grateful for today?" Joseph's automatic response almost came out. "My health, my wealth, my success." But looking around at people who had nothing yet smiled genuinely, he said instead, "I'm grateful for this chance to know my daughter." Sarah squeezed his hand. Lesson 2. Real hunger. Breakfast was a revelation. Mama Janet served watery porridge from one pot, sharing equally among 30 people. Joseph, accustomed to 5-course meals, stared at the thin gruel. "Not hungry?" little Hannah asked innocently. Joseph was starving, but the portion seemed impossibly small. He watched Sarah eat gratefully, not complaining, not asking for more. At home, Sarah leaves half her food uneaten, he realized. Here, she appreciates every spoonful. Mercy noticed his hesitation. "Mr. Joseph, what did you have for breakfast yesterday?" "French toast, fresh fruit, imported coffee, scrambled eggs." "And did you eat with Sarah?" Joseph's face fell. She was getting ready for school. "I was reading business reports." "Here, every meal is family time," Mercy explained. "We're poor in food but rich in togetherness." Lesson 3. Real wealth. By noon, Joseph's expensive clothes were soaked with sweat. He'd helped repair Mrs. Joy's leaking shelter, taught children basic arithmetic alongside Mr. Peter, and shared his meager lunch with a stray dog. His hands were dirty, his back ached, and his stomach rumbled constantly. But something magical was happening. "Daddy," Sarah said during their afternoon rest, "you look different." "Different how?" "Happy. Really happy. Not business smile happy, but peaceful." Joseph realized she was right. Despite the physical discomfort, despite missing 3 important international calls, despite his assistant probably panicking about his disappearance, he felt lighter than he had in years. "Why is that?" he asked Mercy. "Because for the first time in years, you're living for others instead of for yourself," she replied. "You help Mrs. Joy not because she pays you, but because she needed help. You taught children not because it profits you, but because they deserve knowledge. You shared your food not because you had excess, but because sharing creates abundance." That evening, as father and daughter sat side by side watching the Lego sunset reflect off the lagoon, Joseph asked, "Sarah, are you ashamed of me? Your father living like this?" Sarah looked at him with shining eyes. "Daddy, I've never been prouder of you in my entire life." For the first time since his own childhood, Joseph cried tears of pure joy. Day 7. Joseph had survived 6 days under the bridge, and his transformation seemed complete. His designer suit was now permanently stained, his soft hands were calloused, and his heart was fuller than it had ever been. But Mercy wasn't finished with his education. At dawn, screams shattered the peaceful morning. Little Hannah was convulsing violently, foam coming from her mouth, her tiny body burning with fever. She needs a hospital now. Mama Janet cried, cradling the unconscious girl. The community erupted into chaos. Mr. Peter ran to find transportation. Others frantically searched for money they didn't have. Everyone was panicking except Mercy, who knelt calmly beside Hannah, checking her pulse. Meningitis, Mercy diagnosed grimly. She has maybe 2 hours before. She didn't finish the sentence. Everyone understood. Joseph's business mind kicked in instantly. My phone. Where's my phone? I can call my private helicopter. Get her to the best hospital in Lagos in 20 minutes. Mercy looked up at him with sad, knowing eyes. Mr. Joseph, your phone is in my bag. Your wallet too. Remember your choice. The cruel reality hit him like a thunderbolt. He had willingly given up the very tools that could save this precious child's life. Give them back. Joseph screamed desperately. This is life or death. Yes, it is, Mercy said quietly. The question is, what will you choose? Joseph stared at her in confusion. What do you mean? Give me my phone. Mercy stood up slowly. Mr. Joseph, you have 2 choices. Choice 1. Take back your wealth, save Hannah, and prove that money is the ultimate solution to every problem. Return to your old life knowing you're right. Wealth is everything. Sarah gasped, understanding the trap. Choice 2, find another way. Use what you've learned here to save Hannah without your money. Prove that community, love, and resourcefulness can overcome any obstacle. Are you insane? Joseph exploded. A child is dying, and you want me to play games? I want you to choose who you really are, Mercy replied firmly. The seconds ticked by. Hannah's breathing grew weaker. The community looked at Joseph with desperate hope. Then something beautiful happened. Joseph closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and became the man he'd learned to be. Mr. Peter, he shouted, your brother works at Lagos University Teaching Hospital, right? Call him. Tell him it's an emergency. Mama Janet, your church has a bus. Can the pastor drive us? Sarah, remember the breathing technique Mercy taught you for panic attacks? Use it on Hannah. Within minutes, the entire community mobilized like a military operation. Mr. Peter's brother arranged for immediate treatment. The church pastor arrived with transportation. Mama Janet gathered everyone's small contributions. It wasn't much, but it was everything they had. But most importantly, Joseph used something more powerful than money. He used his connections differently. I know the medical director of the hospital, Joseph announced. Not as a wealthy donor, but because his son was in Sarah's class 3 years ago. I'm calling in a favor as a fellow parent, not as a billionaire. The plan worked perfectly. Hannah received immediate treatment and survived. As they sat in the hospital waiting room, Sarah looked at her father with pure amazement. Daddy, you could have just used your money. Yes, but then I would have learned nothing. Mercy was right. I needed to find another way. Mercy smiled proudly. Mr. Joseph, what did you discover? That I don't need to be rich to be resourceful. I don't need money to have connections based on genuine relationships. I don't need wealth to inspire a community to action. He paused. I needed to learn that the most powerful tool I have isn't my bank account. It's my heart connected to other hearts. Money can buy many things, Mercy said as they watched Hannah sleeping peacefully, but it cannot buy wisdom. It cannot buy real love. It cannot buy the kind of community that moves mountains for each other. True wealth isn't what you have. It's who you become and how you serve others. Joseph knelt down and hugged both girls. Mercy, you've given me the greatest gift possible. You've given me back my daughter, and you've given us both a real family. 6 months later, Joseph had built a school and community center near the bridge, not as charity, but as investment in his real education. He worked there every Tuesday and Thursday, learning alongside Sarah from the greatest teacher he'd ever met. And Mercy? She finally had a home where wisdom was valued more than wealth, where a homeless girl's lessons transformed a billionaire's heart. What would you have done in Joseph's situation? Would you have taken back your phone and wallet to save Hannah, or found another way like he did? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. If this story touched your heart and made you think differently about true wealth, please give it a thumbs up. Share it with someone who needs to hear this message. And don't forget to subscribe for more life-changing stories like this one. See you in our next video.